everybody, welcome back. This is Sassy Stitchery and YonderWays. We are on lesson 6 of our Learning Stitches sampler series. We're actually working through the specialty stitches that are in this book by Jeanette Douglas, but we're not doing it in the sampler format. We're actually working them on a piece of banding, or if you don't have banding and you want to stitch from stash, you can use a piece of linen. And we are on lesson number 6, which is the modified Parisian stitch, and it is pages 16 and 17 of the book. And so let's get started. This is a pretty straightforward stitch. The one thing that you do need to remember is that it's worked bottom to top always, no matter which side of the point that you're doing. So if you look at page 17, you can kind of see the stitch flow, and you can really start anywhere in that stitch. We are actually going to make a full stitch on the first row, so we're going to be starting not with where Jeanette starts with her stitch, but we're going to come in to where you can start with a full point, and we're going to be doing with the point going down first. That's a little bit hard to describe unless you're looking at the stitch, but let's look at the, I don't think you can see it too well here, but if you look at page 16 or 17, you'll see that you've got a row of stitches where you have the point going down on the stitch, and then right underneath that you've got a row of stitches where the point goes up like a pennant. And we're going to start where Jeanette starts with the points pointing down, but we're going to be making the stitch bottom to top, and we're going to do a full stitch. So instead of starting on the long stitch, I want you to come into where you see that first full triangle that points down. We want to start right there. So our first stitch is going to cover 2 threads. Okay, so complicated little chatter there in front, but I think you'll get it when you see me do it. So we're going to keep our same margins, 4 threads between rows of different bands and 1 thread from the side. So I'm going to use an away knot. I've already tied a knot in my thread, and I'm going to put it at the end of this row because I think I can stitch over it and cover it, which will be nice. That's a lot of thread to waste, but it'll be all right. All right, so, and if you don't want to waste that much thread, you can put it kind of in the middle. You don't have to do it all the way at the end. We'll snip it off as we go. My knot's a little. It's a little knot. Needs to be a little bigger knot. It's a very windy day here today. My husband is out riding his motorcycle, his dirt bike, and he might be home by now because it's kind of cold. It's weird. Our weather dropped really cold for the next 3 days, and then it warms back up. It was actually freezing last night. Okay, so I'm going to count. I'm going to put the away knot in somewhere here where I know I'll stitch over it, and I'm going to count down 4 threads from the corner of this blossom. I'm going to skip 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll note that I'm 1 thread over. Okay. That is the upper boundary of where I want my stitch to end. So because I want my first stitch to cover 2 threads, I'm going to count down 2 more threads. 1, 2. And I'm going to start right there. And you see my away knot is really up on the border of that. So I'm actually going to pull that out. And I'm going to do that again, because I want it to be down in the body. Because I want it to be fully covered. Okay. All right. Oh, let's put him a little lower this time. Okay. Let's count again. So down from the corner of the blossom, 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm 1 over from the side. I want my first stitch to start at the bottom and cover 2 threads, so I'm going to count down 2 more threads. So from the bottom of this corner blossom, I counted down 6 threads, and that puts you in the right place to start. Okay, and then I'm going to cover 1, 2 threads with that first stitch. You're always going bottom to top. So the next one, you come down 2 threads from where you started the other one. 1, 2, and it's 1 thread over, and then you end in the same spot. Look at your diagram. That'll make a lot more sense. So from that one, you come down 2 more threads. This is the 3rd leg of the stitch. And on this one, you're covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Okay, and then for the longest leg on this one, you skip 2 more threads from where this one started, and then you cover a full 8 threads to get back up there. And then you count it back down. So now you come up 2 threads. And you should be parallel with where you started your partner stitch on that side. And in the same spot, now from where you started this one, you count up 2 threads. Now on this one, you should be covering 4 threads. Let's just make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the last little leg, it covers 2 threads. 1, 2. Okay? So 2s are important in this. You are, making it 2 threads longer, 2 threads shorter as you go through it. So now, here's a little trick. Before you start the next one, you need to skip over to your right 2 threads because you're going to have your bottom one's going to intersect there. So come over 1, 2 threads. Don't start right beside it. Okay, so I skipped 1, 2 threads. I'm going to go over 2. Okay. And in this one, remember we come down 2 threads from where you started that one. You end in the same spot, but you're covering 4 threads, so you can count it if you need to. And come down 1, 2 threads. This one should be covering 6. Let's count it and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the long leg in the center is going to cover 8 threads. And I just came down 2 threads from where I started that last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Now, going back up, you come up 2 threads from where you started the last one. Okay? Each leg does that. So you come up 2 threads from where you started the last one. And you should be parallel to your little partner thread on the other side. This last stitch just covers 2 threads. Alrighty? So you've got 2 of them done there. Hope you feel good about that. And I'm using this rectangle hoop again, which we do have these in stock if you need these. The small oval hoops are back ordered from the maker right now. Now, of course, I'm filming this in May, so if you watch this way later on, that might not be true. Okay, so skip over 2 threads to the right, and the first leg goes over 2 threads. Okay, and you're always going bottom to top. So from where you started the last one, you come down 2 threads. This one goes over 4 threads, so you can count them to make sure you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next leg comes down 2 threads from where you started, and it covers 6 threads. Okay, the next one comes down 2 threads, and it covers 8 threads. And we're getting close to my way knot, so I'm going to cut him off here in a minute. This one comes up 2 threads because we're going back down, we're decreasing. Before I put that back down, I'm going to cut that away knot off. You always want to cut your away knot when you can see the threads because you don't want to cut the thread you're not supposed to. Okay. And I'm just going to march across doing that same stitch. And the only thing to be careful of is to make sure you skip 2 threads between each little section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next one's going to come up 2 threads from where you started your last stitch. 1, 2, and you're going to cover 4 threads before you go back down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you see this stitch in a lot of antique needlework. It's often called a satin stitch because it's just long stitches. It's used a lot for grass, and when it's used for grass, it's going the other way. But it's also used as a border, a decorative border. So you'll see it in a lot of antique samplers. It's a very common little stitch. This part of it anyway. When you see it used for grass and stuff though, you don't have that little space between it because it doesn't have, you know, the two pieces of it. It's just going one direction usually. So they're just long stitches. You see I'm checking that because I didn't count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then from where I started this stitch, I'm going to go back 2 threads. This one covers 4, 2, 3, 4. And the last one covers 2. And then I just have to remember to skip over 2 threads. And that first leg covers 2. And then I'm going to come down 2 threads from where I started. This one covers 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2. And I am stitching with a single strand. Hopefully you're stitching from stash. You may be stitching with floss. That's okay. Whatever works for you. It's a nice, easy, fun little meditative kind of stitch. I was at the end of that section, so I'm going to skip over 2 threads. This covers 2 threads. It should be ended in the same spot. And then I'm going to drop down another 2 threads to start from where I did the other one. This is going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Drop down 2. Cover 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you drop down 2, and this one covers 8 threads, and this is the longest leg of the stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. And then you start counting back up. So you come up 2 threads to start that one. Up 2 threads to start the next one from where you started the last one. And then this last one covers 2 threads. Now, I'm getting to the end of my thread, so I'm actually going to end it and start a new thread. So, let's look at the back. So, yeah, it's just plain, easy, simple. That's my away knot. I'm going to run this through. This is a kind of a big count line, and it's a 21 count, so the stitches aren't super tight, so I wove it quite a little ways through there. There. Okay. So remember this little trick of how to thread. I just hold it over the index finger on my non-dominant hand. I lay the eye right up over it. I roll my finger kind of backwards and rub down with the needle. If you've got it lined up, it'll pop right through for you. Practice that a little while. If you get that, that'll be pretty cool. Okay. Now to start, I'm going to run it under going the other direction a little bit. Try not to go through the exact same path. This is a real long thread. I think I should have cut it in half. I think I'm going to regret this. In fact, I know I am. I'm going to cut it in half. It's one of the ones I guess I didn't get cut. Usually I have them cut. So I'm going to cut some of it off. It's just too long. You lead to tangles when you stitch with a thread that long. It is not fun. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm getting close to the end. So yeah, it looks like a little baseball pennant kind of. So you skip 2 threads between the little pointy parts of the pendant, and you see I pulled that thread right out on the back. So Let's do it again. Okay. And I've got my finger back there feeling it, so I don't want to pull it out again. And I also don't want, you know, a bunch of extra thread back there. Okay, so remember you drop down 2 threads from where you start the last leg each time until you've covered 8 threads with the long leg, and then you start coming back up. So there's one more on this one. This covers 8 threads on this long leg. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. The next one comes up 2 threads to start from where you started that last one. And it covers 6 threads. The next one drops up 2 threads from where you started that leg, and it covers 4 threads. And the last leg of this stitch, up 2, and it covers 2 threads. Okay, and then I'm going to skip 2 threads between it. And that first leg covers 2 threads. Okay, we're going back down, so I'm going to drop down 2 threads. Now, this stitch may not be complete. I'm going to take these rings off because they're catching my thread. I don't like to stitch with the rings on very much because of that. Okay. Drop down 2 threads to start the next leg. And when we get to where we've got 1 thread margin, we're going to stop wherever that is. Drop down 2 threads. This one covers 8 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was the long leg. We can make one more. So we're going to come up 2 threads. This one's going to cover 6 threads, and we're going to stop. Because now we have a 1 thread margin. So you've got 1 thread right here, and that's consistent with what we've done all the way down. So we're going to stop. So that's not a full stitch. That's okay. Okay, now we're going to end our thread, and we're going to march across also from bottom to top, and we're going to do the other half of this, okay, with a different color. So I'm going to run this under, and I'm not going under the last stitch I laid. I hardly ever do. If I do, it's usually by accident. I'm going to jump over here, and these little stitches are tighter because they're small, and so I try to hit some of the little ones. And I don't pull too hard because I don't want to distort what's on the front. Okay, and then we're done with that purple thread. And we're going to start, I'm going to use a blue one. You know, so I've gone purple, red, blue. So it means I don't have a red one in between, but that's okay. I'm just going to do 2 rows of these. So I'm taking out the middle one to try to keep some symmetry in the color line. I know it's, as I mentioned before, these are kind of bold colors, not the most cohesive, but they're meant to show you. And this one, I think I'm going to start with an away knot, waist away knot, because I want to have this dark blue thread buried underneath my dark blue stitches. I don't want it to be under my purple ones. And that's true when you're using a pretty stark color change on a light colored linen. You don't want to see it through the front. And so you want to bury it underneath a thread of the same color or a similar hue color. Okay. All right, so our stitches are going to end up embedding right up in here. So I'm going to kind of put this guy right here. And I know he'll get covered. Okay, so over here, you're going to be starting with, you know, kind of a longer compensating stitch. So underneath the little 2-legged guy, if you look at your diagram on page 17, and you can also see it on page 16, But under the two-legged stitch, it skips 2 threads. And then you've got a stitch that covers 6 threads, right? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So underneath this first little two-legged guy, you have 2 empty threads, and then you've got a stitch that covers 6 threads. So we're going to have to count down from the bottom of this stitch 8 threads. Okay? So let's do that. Okay. So from right there, I'm counting down 8 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm keeping the 1 thread margin from the side. Okay. I did that because I want to cover 6 threads with this leg and have 2 threads open. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I've got 2 threads open. Okay. Now, you're going to have to follow your stitch diagram on this first one, and then you'll be fine. So you're going to start, because you're going bottom to top, so you start right beside this last leg, and you stop 2 threads short of where you stopped the last time, which should also give you a 2 thread margin from the leg above it. Okay? And you should have covered 4 threads with that second leg. So now this third leg is your little 2 thread leg. Okay? So that's what it looks like. So let's look at it. You've got 2 threads margin right through here. The first leg covered 6 threads and you had 2 empty threads. So we came down 8 threads to start. And then we kind of fell back into our pattern. We started right beside it and we stopped 2 threads shy of the last stitch. So the second leg covered 4. So it's 6, 4, 2. So if you were up here, it was 8 threads, 6 threads, 4 threads, 2 threads, 2 threads, 4 threads, 6 threads, 8 threads. And we just kept going through the pattern like that. This bottom is going to do the same thing. Okay. Now we're at the point on this stitch where we skip 2 threads. See, remember up here, you skip 2 threads. So we're going to skip 2 threads right here. We're going to come up right here. We're going to go over 2 threads and go down. Okay? So let's do it together. Alrighty. So from our last leg, we're going to skip 1, 2 threads. And just like we did with the top, the first leg is always covering 2 threads. So it's starting in the same place. 1, 2. So this one's a little different because instead of ending in the same place, you're starting in the same place because you're always going bottom to top. Okay? Now this second leg of this little pennant covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, which should also leave you a 2 thread margin from the leg above it. The next one covers 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and leaves you with a 2 thread margin. Now the next one is the long leg in this set, and it covers 8 threads, or if you don't want to count it, it stops 2 threads above where the last one stopped, right there. Okay? And you'll notice you still have a 2 thread margin from the back of that row. So now you're coming back down. So this stitch covers 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can do this visually. You can just count, 2 threads down, 2 threads up. It's pretty straightforward once you figure out what's happening here. But it's just a little tricky on the getting started on the second part. So this last little leg on this little grouping covers 2 threads, and then you skip 2 threads. So 1, 2. When you get to the pointy part of the one above it, you have to skip 2 threads. This is the first leg of the next grouping, so it covers 2 threads. The next one covers 4 threads, and you can count them if you need to. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're still keeping that 2 thread margin from the leg right above it. The next one covers 6 threads, leaving a 2 thread margin. The next one is the long leg, and it covers 8 threads. So let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you see how they're fitting together there? This one you drop back 2 threads from where the last one ended. The next one, again, you drop back 2 threads from where the last one ended. Also, it's just a 2 thread margin from the one above it. And then the last leg in this grouping covers 2 threads. Also dropping back 2 threads and a 2 thread margin from the one above it. And now the next grouping, you skip over 2 threads to start. And we're getting close to my way knot, so I'm going to cut him off in just 1 second. I don't like to get a stitch real close to that where I have to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Okay, so that's coming together really pretty, I think. It's a beautiful stitch. It's beautiful to create, you know, texture and dimension. It's just really pretty. And if you are, you know, in our beginning needlepoint online lessons that we started, this is a stitch that you would use in needlepoint. It's a beautiful filling stitch. And that's the great thing about these stitches, is they cross over through different types of hand embroidery, which is what needlepoint and, you know, cross stitch and embroidery all are. They're types of different embroidery. So I think you've probably got the gist of it. You just have to remember that when you get to the pointy part, you skip over 2 threads. And you're covering in multiples of 2. So the first leg is 2 threads. The next leg is 4 threads. The next leg is 6 threads. Or you can go up 2, down 2, however you want to do it. The long leg is 8 threads. Let's count them just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I'm coming back down this little grouping, back down the mountain. Okay, I'm at the end, so I'm skipping 2 threads. That first leg covers 2 threads. I find this to be very kind of meditative. I love seeing it kind of come to life too. Ooh, I skipped one there. Did you see that? How fun is that? Let's fix that. I hope you find your rhythm doing this. It's kind of, keep wanting to skip that thread there. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you are in doubt at all, then count it. Because you hate to get moving along and then realize you did one wrong. With something like this that's so visible, the pattern's so visible, you'd probably have to take it out and fix it. Okay, we're getting toward the end. So for us, we're going to end with another partial. And it's just one thread. So come up 2. There you go. So I think that's beautiful. I love it. And I like the purple and the blue together. So that is the modified Parisian stitch. Pretty straightforward, huh? So I think it's really pretty. I'm going to end the thread. And I'm not going to do any more of these. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure you've got enough room for all the 15 bands on your banding or your linen that you're using. And if you use your beginning band or your ending band, make sure you got room for those. Now, let me just say before I jump to the end of this, I created a new page called YonderWays on the Sassy Jack Stitchery website. So if you go to Sassy Jack Stitchery and you find the tab for YonderWays, you have the downloads for this class, which means you have the beginning and ending band that we created especially for you. And you've got, a link to all the little tools and stuff that we've talked about. You've got a link to buy the book if you don't have the book yet. And then if you're doing the needlepoint class, you also have another page for that. So I tried to make it easier for you. So for those of you that had trouble finding the beginning and ending band, it's right there for you. So anyway, I'm going to end this thread, flip my banding over, and start from the other end and do this with some variegated floss. So thanks for watching, and come right back. Okay, welcome back. I have moved to the other end of the banding. And if you are using or wondering what this thread is, it is a sulky single strand number 12. And this variegated floss is called blendable. And they actually have a whole new set that has all the blendables in it. So I just ordered that for you guys. So as soon as it gets here, I'll put that on the website. The blendables do come as part of one of the other 2 sets that make up the full line of sulkies. But if you're just looking for the variegated ones, they have their own little set now, which I think is great. They come in a case, and you have extra room in that case to add other threads to it. And I'm going to introduce a new color today too that we haven't used yet, which will be fun. So first, I'm going to do the top Pennant Row. And I haven't thought of any fun little cool tricks to do with this one. This one is usually, just a little filling stitch, and represents some kind of background like grass or something else, or it's a pretty little border. I don't think I'm going to add any beads or anything to it. I think I'm just going to lay it in there and do it. And let the thread be the pretty part. I know you quilters are cringing. You're like, do a quilter's knot, do a quilter's knot. Nah, but I'll have to go next door. We are right beside a quilt shop called Five Little Monkeys, and they're great. They opened right about the same time we did. That knot's making me mad now. They opened right about the same time that we did, and Angie, who owns that shop, I'll have to get her to show me that quilter's knot. Okay, so I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me my margin from the band above it, which I want to keep that. And then because I'm going to be starting with a little 2-legged stitch, I'm going to count down 2 more threads. 1, 2. And because I skipped a thread there, I'm going to count that again. So I should be a total of 6 threads from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I am. So my first leg's going to cover 2 threads. Okay. My next leg is going to cover 4 threads. The next leg will cover 6 threads. You get the idea here. And then the next leg, the long leg, will cover 8 threads. So it's just like what we just did, except I just got a little knot there. We'll see if it comes back through on the front. Nope, it's gone. Nope, it's there. I feel it on the back. All right. So when this happens to you, voila. You put your point of the needle into the loop and pull it or tug it a little bit, and it almost always goes away. All right, that was a long leg, and that was 8 threads. Now I'm going to come back up. This should be covering 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I use my hand on the back to hold things in place and feel for knots and all kinds of good stuff. Okay, now between the two little groupings, you have to skip 2 threads, because remember, we're going to bring the other one up and it's going to join right there. Using a variegated floss for this is just stunning. Floss thread, whatever you're using. It's just so pretty. That was the long leg, and it covered 8 threads. So let's come up to, and that one covers 6. The next one covers 4. The next one covers 2. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me stitch this. I'm just going to stitch it all the way across. When I get ready to start the bottom one, we'll come back together and we'll start that one together. So I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. You can see that I finished that top little band of Parisian stitches for you, and I've tied my own knot where you didn't have to watch, and started with a waist away knot here, and I'm getting ready to do this first stitch. Now if you remember from where we did this on the practice band, I came down 2 threads, and then the band that joins up with the 2 threads on the bottom, if you look at your stitch diagram on page 17, covers 6 threads. So I counted down 2. I need to count down 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you could really start yours differently if you want to. That's totally okay. You just need to make sure that you're looking at the diagram and you know how to match these up, because you want a 2 thread margin between these 2 sets. Now this leg should cover 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which should give me a 2 thread margin from the leg right above it, and it does. And I am using that other sulky blendable that I showed you. If you want to know the name of the colors, the first one that I use, which I've been using, is 4006. That's real pretty, orangey red. This one is 4088, 4088, and it's blue greens. Okay. All right, so now you kind of follow the same pattern. You've got a 2 thread margin from the thing above it, and you're always adding or taking away 2 threads from the leg beside you. And you're always going bottom to top. Right? So, and now I'm at the point here where I have to skip 2 threads. I'm at the pointing part of the guy above him, so I'm skipping 2 threads. And I'm going to cover 2 threads with that stitch. The next stitch covers 4 threads. The next leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next leg covers 6 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, in all honesty, the flower thread that we used here looks great on this 21 count. Most of you are on 28 count. This sulky thread's a little thin for coverage. This sulky thread looks great on 32, 30. You could probably use it on 28 count. I think it's going to look fine. But when you get down to a 21 count, that's a lot bigger holes, a lot bigger weave. This doesn't give you great coverage. The flower thread still does. It's more along the line of 2 threads of DMC. A pearl number 12 is just shy of 2 threads of DMC. It's a little bit thinner. It's thicker than 1 strand of DMC or 1 ply of DMC, but it's just a smidge thinner than 2 ply. So it doesn't give you the great coverage on this 21 count, but it will look good on 28 count, I believe, and I know it looks good on 30 count and 32 count. When you get up to 36, you're getting a little thick. Some people like it, but, you know, most people would say it's too thick up there. But you can always try it. Okay, now we carry on. This is the long leg of my stitch that I'm on, which is 8 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I just love seeing the color play out with these variegated threads. Oh, got myself in a little bind up here somehow. I'm discombobulated. Do you ever get discombobulated? I'm losing my voice from talking so much today. I'm just talking to you guys though. Okay. Okay, so you see how that's coming together. Now I'm at the pointy part, so I'm skipping 2 threads. And then the next leg covers 2 threads. And then the next leg covers 4 threads. And the next leg covers 6 threads. And that's the way this goes. And then the long leg of this little section covers 8 threads. So you can count them, or you can count off the stitch beside it if you're sure it's right. And just make sure that you've always got a 2-thread margin from the stitch across from it, and that you're, you know, either decreasing or increasing your coverage by 2 threads, depending on whether you're going up or down the little mountain or the pennant, however you look at it. What do you think about this stitch? Pretty straightforward, except for the counting, right? But you can see it's just a long stitch. And here you are, learned another specialty stitch without even working too hard for it. See how pretty it's turning out with this variegated floss. So, you know, you can add beauty to needlework in a few different ways. You can do it with texture by changing the stitch, you know, and having it be, you know, more or less dense of a stitch. You can do it with placement. You can do it with color, and this is doing it with placement and color. Just really pretty. I'm going to cut my away knot. Waste away knot, because I wasted some flosses doing it. All right, and if you missed that, I made sure that I was in the right spot. I kind of eyeballed that really close because I looked away for a minute. Okay, now this long leg covers 8 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And you're not skipping any threads between the legs of the stitch that you're doing, right? You're just going 1 thread over. Well, 1 thread over, but you know, you're not skipping more than 1. This is going to look kind of Eastery. I didn't really intend that, but Very pretty colors together. There's a knot. That looks like a good one. Oh, it came out. I was lucky because it didn't look like a slip knot. I almost went into the wrong space there. Okay, I'm going to finish this out, and I will meet you back at the end. Okay, so there we are. That is lesson 6, the modified Parisian stitch. And you'll see I finished out my little band. I love how those colors are coming together. It's just very beautiful. I like that it goes really nicely with the ones above it. I think this is also starting to look really nice and pretty, and like a little stitch sampler should. It's just turning out really pretty. So I hope you've been enjoying it. I've really appreciated all the feedback and the comments. I love seeing your pictures, and those of you guys who are doing your own floss tubes, thanks so much for the shout outs and for sharing your work out there. I've seen some beautiful stitches. I've seen some beautiful little squirrels, and it's just made my heart really happy. So thank you for that. I hope that you'll come back for lesson number 7, which will be a fun little stitch all by itself. And have fun with this, and I will see you back very soon. Bye.